Hey everybody, Jeff Schneider here, and I'm going to talk about modes today and how to practice them a different way than maybe you're accustomed to. And I'd argue to say it's an even better way than you might be used to. So here's how I think you should be practicing your modes. But let's first start with the way modes are generally taught and practiced, which is where you take your basic major scale. Let's take like an E flat major scale concert. And then you take the same set of notes, but instead of starting on the first scale degree, which is going to be a concert E flat, you start on the second scale degree, which would be concert F, and you'd get this. Which would be the F Dorian scale. So you're taking the same key center, or rather the same key signature, and the same set of notes, and you're just starting on a different note. That's one way to learn modes. It's definitely a popular way to learn modes, but I'm not sure it's the best way. What I recommend is starting on the same note every time. So if you're going to do E flat, start on E flat for every single mode. Do E flat Ionian, do E flat Dorian, do E flat Phrygian, and so on. That way you're not only getting to know the sound of the mode a little bit better, but you're also getting to learn how the scale degrees function within that mode. So this is what I mean. If you take that E flat scale, E flat Ionian, that's just your basic major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then back down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, if you want to do a different mode, let's say the Dorian mode, instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to start on the next note in the scale, and maybe you'd figure it out with a little bit of muscle memory. Maybe you just know that you were in the same key signature. So this way is going to be a bit more of a challenge. You're going to think, okay, so it's E flat Dorian. What do I have to do? I have to take the 3 and lower it by a half step, so it's going to be a flat 3. And I also have to do the same with the 7. I have to do a flat 7. So you memorize Dorian not as the second mode, but rather a major scale with a flat 3 and a flat 7. Why is this going to be helpful? Well, first, let me play the scale. By the way, when I do it like that, because we still have that sense of E flat as our root, I think it really helps us kind of hear what that mode sounds like, the character of that mode. Versus if I just go like this. Yes, I'm playing different modes each time, but it still just sounds like C major, or rather E flat major to me. C major for alto saxophone. So I recommend starting on the same note every time, because that way you really become familiar with the color of that mode. Each mode has its own personality, its own color. And if you do it this way, if you practice it this way, you're going to get to become more familiar with those colors and those personalities a lot faster. And then you'll be able to use modes a lot more effectively too in your improvisation and composition. So let's keep going here. We did Ionian, we did Dorian, now let's do E flat Phrygian. So for Phrygian, we have a flat 2, and we have a flat 7. We got a flat 3 as well. So flat 2, flat 3, flat 7, and flat 6. So it's going to sound like this. And if you're not familiar with the actual adjustments you need to make in order to create these different modes, I highly recommend you check out my chord scale charts. They're extremely useful for this type of reference, so I'll link them up top over here and down below. I have the chord scale charts for all the major modes, and then all the more obscure ones that you'd find with minor keys. Really cool stuff. So go check that out. Great reference to have. So one other thing, when you're thinking about scale degrees like this, like 1 and flat 2 and flat 3 and flat 7, you're also going to be able to better apply these modes to improvisation and composition, because you'll start thinking about how certain chords and chord voicings will lend themselves better to these types of modes. So for instance, let's say you have an E flat sus chord with the flat 9 on top. So it's sort of like an E flat 7 sus flat 9. Sometimes you might see this as like an E flat minor 7 flat 9, which is sort of an unusual chord. Well, what scale goes with that? Well, if you know your modes and you know how the scale degrees coincide with those modes, you would know that this Phrygian mode would work really well, because it has that flat 2, which is like the flat 9, and it has the flat 7, and it has the flat 3. So you can really convey the sound of that chord with this mode. If you've ever heard the song After the Rain by John Coltrane, this is an example, a really nice example of a song that uses that sus flat 9 chord. So go check out After the Rain by John Coltrane. So I think you get the point here, practicing all the different modes, but starting on the same note every time, rather than using the same key signature and just running through the different places you could start that scale to get the different modes. You're not really getting the sound of the modes that way, that well, and you're not learning them as deeply as you could if you think about the scale degrees and how you need to alter them in order to create and get to these different modes. So again, if you need help with the reference and figuring out how to alter the notes to get the modes, check out the chord scale charts that I talked about before. They're linked up top and down below. And let me know if you have any questions. Modes are a little bit complex. They're kind of tough to get your head around, but this is a really easier and more effective way. I don't know if it's easier, but it's definitely more effective in the long run in helping you getting to understand how modes work, how they sound, and how you can use them best for your music. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.